Moderna has applied for full FDA approval of its COVID-19 vaccine for use in people 18 and older. It's the second drug maker in the U.S. to seek the license that will allow it to market the shots directly to consumers. Moderna's vaccine is currently on the market under an emergency use authorization, which was granted by the FDA back in December. Last month, Pfizer announced it was initiating its own application for full FDA approval for people ages 16 and up. Dr. Neeta Ogden is an internal medicine specialist and immunologist, and she joins us now to discuss all the latest COVID news. So, Dr. Ogden, good to see you. Could full approval of the vaccines motivate those who remain vaccine hesitant to roll up their sleeves? I've heard a lot of people who I've interacted with just recently who have said that they're uncomfortable taking the vaccine, and if it was so efficacious, the FDA would approve it. But the FDA has not approved it, so they're suspicious or they're hesitant. What do you say to people who feel that way?
Yeah, good morning. And I think you raise a really good point that now with full FDA approval, this is going to actually raise vaccine confidence. And when we see that even apply then to later groups, because I've seen people say that about their children as well, I think this will boost that confidence, and some of that vaccine hesitancy will fall to the wayside. I think it will also allow, private employers, schools, universities to now even start mandating the vaccine. And it's going to allow Moderna to supply the vaccine directly to consumers like pharmacies, physicians' office, again, employers and universities. So it does bolster up the vaccine effort incredibly. And I think it does instill more confidence in both the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine, which got this approval a few weeks ago.
You know, I'll just say one thing, Dr. Ogden. It is interesting to me that some people have these concerns about full FDA approval when, you walk into a vitamin shop and literally everything on the shelves that people are ingesting and putting into their bodies for weight loss, for weight gain, to, whatever. I mean, none of those things have FDA approval, and none of those things do what they say that they do, at least from a medical perspective, and yet people have no problem taking those supplements and putting those things and then telling you why, you should, if you want to increase your, brain capacity, this is the vitamin to take. So it's sort of sometimes difficult to comprehend the hesitancy there.
No, I completely agree with you. And I found it so funny when Chris Rock says that he doesn't even know what's in Fruit Loops, and he eats those. Like, it's just, that's the nature of our world right now. And it's sort of like picking and choosing what you're going to, make an issue about when this is something that can actually save lives and change the nature of our country and how we go back into the world and our children's lives. So it's mind-boggling, really.
So Moderna also announced a deal with a Swiss pharmaceutical company to halve the size of its COVID vaccine doses to boost production. It says that the smaller doses may also be given to children who may not require a full dose. And so I guess my question is that I don't know what age children they're talking about, but how effective would smaller doses be at protecting against emerging variants?
Yeah, so, this is an area of the vaccine that's really going to, it's like the new landscape of the vaccine where we're going to see different doses, combinations of vaccines. And now as they look at the younger population, and I think what they're talking about is less than 12 years old, again, this half dose, they haven't provided much more information beyond this, which is that this half dose as a booster has shown promising evidence against variants. But it does make sense that under 12 years old, we do kind of see the immune system potentially behave differently in these children, and that lesser dose might be related to more safety and efficacy in that age group. So I think it's something that we're going to hear more about in the weeks to come. But, from an immune perspective, it does make a lot of sense.
So as you know, Doctor, clinical trials are already underway to test the safety of mixing vaccine brands when it comes to booster shots. What will researchers be looking for during these studies? It is sort of interesting. I mean, how can you mix them if they're two different vaccines? And if they're not that different altogether, then, I mean, I get that there might be companies who have, the same way you can buy different brands of acetaminophen, but if acetaminophen, I mean, I can mix two different acetaminophen brands and get the same effect. I understand that. Are we talking about the same thing? And if so, then it really means that there's not that big of a difference, or is there enough of a difference that this really needs to be studied and it may not actually fly once the results come in?
Yeah, I think that's what remains to be seen. And I think, like I said, this is just an entirely new era of vaccine development, which is in fact very exciting. This is a study from the NIH that's going to look at 150 people who are fully vaccinated with one of the 3 vaccines that are authorized in the United States. And about 12 to 20 weeks after that second vaccine dose, they're going to receive a single booster of the Moderna vaccine. And keep in mind, in Canada, they're already doing this because, we in the United States, of course, have the luxury to sort of examine things from this lens, and other countries are still struggling to vaccinate and have enough of these incredible vaccines for their entire population. So I do wish that the sample size was a little bigger. I think it is an important, sort of point that you're making. We have the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines, which are very similar, but we're going in also the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So it'll be something that we remain to see how it plays out for the different vaccines when they're combined. But I do think, at least for Pfizer and Moderna, we're going to see that boost effect because they are so similar.
Israel is looking into a small number of heart inflammation cases reported in young men who were administered the Pfizer vaccine. Can you give us any more information about that?
Yeah, this is something that's been in the news for a few weeks now, but specifically Israel has published a study now that shows that they believe that there is an association between the second dose of the Pfizer vaccine, and they specifically saw it in young men in the military between roughly the ages of 16 and 35. And really, they pinpointed the age groups of 16 to 19. But however, keep in mind, this was about 275 cases among 5 million people who had been vaccinated with the Pfizer vaccine in particular. Pfizer has weighed in, the CDC has weighed in, and the European Medicines Agency, and they all feel that the incidence of myocarditis that has been seen here is not more than one would see in the general population, and therefore is not a cause for concern. However, it is important to raise awareness among physicians that this is something they should be on the lookout for, that feeling of chest pain and discomfort. And another thing to keep in mind is that 95% of the cases observed in these Israeli men were mild, and they were discharged from the hospital within a few days.
Dr. Ogden, before we let you go, I just have a question on what's been happening internationally. As you know, you and I and Anne-Marie discussed many times here on this broadcast what was happening in India and some other countries. Cases in India are thankfully starting to decline, although it still is a problem in that country. I also note that in Taiwan, which had been successful in combating the spread of coronavirus, is also seeing a spike right now, and officials are unsure exactly why. So my question has to do with the variants that we're seeing and what it could potentially mean for us here in the United States as we get ready to reopen. Most of the country is reopening, and we're getting, into the summer season where everybody just wants to, have a good time and relax and, be mask-free, according to the CDC guidelines. What are you and the medical community watching for as we witness the spread of these variants that are now here in the United States? So even though we're fully vaccinated, is it something that we should be cautious about?
Yes, absolutely. And I got vaccinated in December, so I feel this, this sense of excitement. I love seeing the world opening up now, but I think we all have to keep in mind that this is, like as you said, this is a global pandemic, and these countries are being wildly affected. And these other countries like Taiwan that you mentioned had shown some, initial control, are now seeing surging cases. These variants are a real issue. And we saw actually in a UK study that came out recently that the Pfizer vaccine, had diminished effect about 88% after 2 doses against the Indian variant. After 1 dose, that efficacy was 33%. And that's just one variant, which means there are more places in the world that do not have access to the vaccines where coronavirus is going to continue to develop these variants. And it may not be an issue right now when we see the Pfizer vaccine still has very good efficacy, but I do worry and have concern about a year from now and months from now if there isn't greater global control over coronavirus, which is why the World Health Organization today is calling on leaders to create a $5 billion investment in stopping the pandemic through testing, through access to vaccines. It is hugely important, and I think it is in stark contrast to how we are kind of emerging happily in the United States, but we definitely have to keep all of this in mind.
That's so true. Dr. Ogden, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.